Hello and welcome back to the Distant Tourist Podcast. I'm Robert.
And I'm Thomas.
And this is the podcast where each week we look at one of Japan's 47 prefectures. And this week, Thomas, what are we taking a look at?
We're looking at Aichi.
All right, so, just for a bit of background, my friend had told me about this place, but I don't think you really had any background with this place.
I had almost none. When you told me you wanted to do Aichi, I was kind of like, oh, okay. It wasn't until I really started doing more research into what's going on in Aichi did I realize kind of like that I actually know a lot about it. It is very samurai themed, which you could maybe be able to say that maybe this episode might be samurai themed a little bit.
So, okay, I guess that should kind of lead into our opening. What's kind of the background that leads us to get to samurai in Aichi Prefecture?
Well, they take huge, I guess, joy or extreme, I guess,
almost
pride.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to find the word.
Yeah.
Pride in their samurai culture and history. A lot of they have very famous food that I'll touch on later. That was very famous during that time. Also, the Oda clan was also that they also lived here during a time. So they have very deep samurai, like strong samurai roots, and they've kind of kept that and has been really the pride of Aichi, especially in a modern day. I do want to talk a little bit about samurai because a lot of people, they like when you think about a samurai, you think about a guy in the typical, I don't know how to describe it, but that warlord samurai armor, and usually they have a katana, and
then when they get in fights, they do like one quick swing and then it's over.
Yeah,
like in the movies. Sorry, of course.
Yeah, in the movies, that's what you envision when you think samurai.
Yeah.
Right. And there's the way of the samurai, and what does all that mean, and all that. But samurai, it was very much just mercenaries. They were just mercenaries. And they didn't have swords or anything like that when they first started off. Or actually for a majority of history in Japan. When people think about like your version, like a lot of people's general versions of a samurai, which is all that armor and swords, that was only towards the very end of the time period. Before then, it was very much horseback and archers.
So it almost seems as if it's like kind of like the honeymoon feeling where it's like, oh, the glory days when it looked like this, but in reality we're like ignoring a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, there's actually I think the samurai that people think of was only in existence for I believe 50 years.
Oh, so not that long at all.
I believe I don't know the exact amount of time. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But it was very, very short. And so that's how they wore their armor, and how they got their armor was because they were able to get money from their previous endeavors. And so really the armor wasn't really armor at one point. It was more of, look how rich I am.
So almost more of a symbol of status at that point.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And poor people did not hire samurai. It was only the extremely wealthy people that hired samurai because they were mercenaries. That's all they were. And this was during the, I believe it was the Warring States period, but I could be very, very wrong. But I cannot pinpoint the exact time. But I believe it was the Warring States.
Okay.
It was right before Edo, because Edo, that's when the shogunate took over, which was technically the symbol of samurai at the time. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a sidetrack, but the old samurai, they were just archers on horseback, and the name of the game was to get behind your opponent, or literally just get behind your opponent and shoot them.
Okay.
But this isn't I don't want to kind of undermine samurai by saying that they were just archers, whatever. They were very, very good archers. Like, if anyone's have ever tried to shoot a bow and arrow on top of a horse, it's yeah,
just shaking all over the
you're
place.
shaking all over the place, and to be able to hit your opponent while that, and most of the time you're trying to aim behind you in different directions, it is extremely hard to do. So that's why a lot of like battlefields back then, people can only speculate. But the name of the game would be trying to get a better angle on your opponent to shoot them.
Which would make sense, especially for archery. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were extremely skilled archers. After that, that's when certain clans started getting a better name for themselves because they've won more battles, and they started getting more money, and then that's when they started making katanas. Even then, katana battles, I think out of the two that I would want to see, I don't know if I would want to see though, but the one that would probably be the most interesting would be actually, I believe, the archery one. Because with the katana one, in real life, it's a fumble for in the battle.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, I think you can make the argument for just about any location in the world with this sort of technique, because it's a lot of kind of feeling the opponent and getting, I guess, the hit. But
well, it's mostly like, okay, your weapon's away. What do? You charge you like scramble for their weapon and try to disarm them, and then it's a scramble on the ground to see if they can grab your weapon. There's not a lot of TV shows show like, they draw out their katana and it's like a couple flashes of light and they put it away. That would never ever 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 happen.
Right.
And even the katana fight, it's kind of like, it would still have some good techniques to it. You still have some good sword interactions.
Like you can't just say,
but you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And anything goes. So people would throw like dirt and stuff like that. But then I guess that's when kind of the way of the samurai kicks in a little bit. And that is kind of supposed to be the etiquettes of being a samurai, which was based off of a book, really. So yeah, that has some things, but I mean,
we're just really destroying the romanticism of samurai today.
That is one of the things about, if you're really into history of Japan, that is one of the things you'll find out is samurai are not as amazing as they sound. I mean, they are amazing and they are very interesting, but the version, people are very, they have a very selective version of a samurai. Right. And I wish people knew more about the archery side of samurai, considering that was a majority of their history.
Well, I feel like it's the same way that the West romanticizes the Wild West, like, duels right off in the sunset, but it never really happened like that. I think it's one of the same symptoms of, we think it looks a certain way and it's stylized it a certain way, and it's the reality, of course, is vastly different from that.
Yes,
and usually never as clean.
So, going off of all of that, I briefly touched on the Oda clan. There is a great Buddha statue that is also built in Nagoya, which is a really big city in Aichi. And the Oda clan, Oda Nobunaga's brother, actually commissioned this big Buddha, and in honor of their father.
Okay.
And so that is where it stands now with, I believe it is surrounded by a bunch of traditional gardens, as such, something that would essentially be like that, and then also a temple as well.
Okay.
The place is called Toganji Temple, and it was established in 1532, but it was moved to where it stands today.
Okay.
In 1714.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, it is very much a really big part of history. It's very, very old. It is almost green because I believe it was made out of bronze. I could be wrong. However,
I believe that's from
oxidization.
Yeah, oxidization. Thank you.
Chemistry.
One time I'm gonna get to use that.
I'm not. But yeah, they have a really, really big samurai culture here. Also, their food was very famous. They were very famous, like samurai food. They had what was it? It was hot miso,
Okay.
which was believed to be like their secret weapon during the war because it is long lasting, very light, and it tastes good. And it's very nutritious as well.
Okay, so yeah, that'd fill a lot of good requirements.
So yeah, if you're on the run on horseback or you're doing longer missions, this would be perfect because it tastes good, lightweight, and it gives you all the stuff you need to keep going.
Yeah.
But a bunch of different other specialties has come out of it. I think one of the bigger ones that I really think is interesting is miso katsu. So this is very much a new thing.
Oh, okay.
Or a newer thing, which is a katsu, which is a fried pork cutlet. But then instead of like we have katsu sauce here in the States,
Yeah.
which is I believe the main ingredient is really Worcestershire sauce.
Oh.
If you're trying to make it at home, I believe it's like that. This is a very Western style.
Okay.
But this one, it is made with miso and it has a very distinct color. It is very like almost like a dark brown.
Oh.
Yes. Some people say that a lot of the Aichi's cuisine is like a different shade of brown.
So kind of like just a little off base.
Yeah, so I saw even on their website was that it may not look extremely appealing, but the taste more than makes up for it. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's a great way to sell it to me, but okay.
yeah. But they're very much known for their fermentation foods. So not only are they well known for the miso, they're also well known for the vinegar as well, which has one of the biggest kind of balsamic rice or wine vinegar
Oh.
in Japan. Yeah, it is extremely popular.
So something definitely to try.
Yes. So there's that. Other ones that they said that might be a really good traditional or food of that area was Nagoya meshi, which is kind of more of that like a fish. What we talked about way at the very beginning about hime.
Yeah,
That was taimeshi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said that many different prefectures have like their own type of meshi, and so this is Nagoya meshi. And then there is Nagoya fried chicken as well, fried chicken wings. I guess that is very popular.
Is it like their own batter? Or...
I believe so, but everything is using a lot of the miso into it as well.
Oh, okay.
And then there was kishimen, which is like long flat noodles in broth.
Okay.
And then there was the pork cutlet I talked about earlier. And then there is hitsu mabushi, which is like grilled glazed eel.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yes. So there's all of that. I think the food sounds amazing.
It definitely sounds different than what I was expecting. I mean, it sounds very I don't want to default to unique. I want to say I'm gonna say inspired. I think inspired is the right word for it. But yeah, I can definitely see why you'd categorize this as quote unquote samurai food. I mean, especially with fulfilling all that criteria.
Yeah. The only other thing is excuse me, is how miso is made. So I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on that.
Okay.
I don't know about exact specifics, like how long do you ferment it, how like exactly thing, but it is mostly made from soybeans. They are steamed and then fermented in huge wooden caskets, and then they are sealed with tons of like specialty placed rocks. and then they actually place them around the Hanada city, I believe it is. Sorry, it is around castle bases around
Oh.
the castle, and that's how they kind of ferment it, I believe.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure. That's one of the big things
Mm.
that I've been very curious about miso,
Mm.
because you hear it all the time. Like miso soup is a big, really popular dish that a lot of people know of,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
but I don't really know where miso comes from,
Mm.
and so I at least know that now it is from steamed and fermented soybeans.
Okay. And that's a good place to start. I always had a
Yes.
suspicion it was soy. I just could never confirm that
So
suspicion.
there is that. That it is
Yeah.
steamed and fermented soybeans.
That's a really good healthy choice right there anyway.
Yes. So what did you find when you did your, or you already know quite a bit about Aichi? You're the one that chose it, really.
So I wouldn't say I knew a lot about Aichi in particular. It was that my friend would like is constantly hyping up Nagoya, so I was like, well, we do a podcast where we talk about prefecture, so I was like, why not use this time to take kind of a dive? And so I like to be quite fair, like I took kind of a general overview of Nagoya. So like in general, like from just the pictures that I saw, like some of the architecture and design just looks really freaking cool. Like just in general, like to start with, um, like I just kind of like the neon signs looks and everything, and I'm just kind of like a sucker for that city vibe.
Mm.
Um, Also like a lot of museums to check out, science museums, aerospace museums, kind of stuff. But the one I wanted to focus on was the Shinkansen museum that they have there,
Oh.
where they got like 39 of their retired train cars displayed, and you like they have platforms you can like walk in, like take a look around, walk through.
Real quickly, what is a Shinkansen for? Because that is the Japanese word for it.
Yeah, so I think the full translation is, well, I think we call it the bullet train
It
here.
is the bullet train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I'm like hesitant to use it is because in some of the pictures that I saw, it was like the really old, like almost trolley looking kind of cars were displayed there. So I was like, it's the Shinkansen Museum, the Bullet Train Museum, but like not everything displayed
It's
is
probably like
in
the
Bullet Train.
history of trains.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was kind of came to understand after a certain point. Because like they got like everything from like 50s to like
Oh.
even like recently retired like bullet trains are there on display. Um, Another thing they got that I found really cool is that they got like dioramas to explain like some of the science and stuff because
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then my favorite part, because I am a weird sucker for trains, like it's a weird thing I did a lot growing up where I had those play trains, but they got like simulations where you can set up trains, pick out routes, that kind of thing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that looks cool. Like, I don't know about you, man, but I mean, just like the like webs of trains and like the networks, like I really wish the United States would have a more robust kind of, well, a bullet train, but also more like more widespread train network. Because man, like taking a train just sounds like it'd make traveling so much easier as opposed to having to get into a car and like fight traffic.
I think so. We are mostly in California right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe at one point California was making talks about maybe making a bullet train that went like from northern California down to like SoCal
Mm-hmm.
to like LA. But I think that plan kind of fell through. I also wish that the U.S. actually had a good railroad system.
Because you can get like to other parts of the United States, but like I think, oh, what is it, from like here to, let's say, Seattle, it's gonna take like 2 or 3 days, and I'm like, that's too long. Like,
It's a long drive, and most people in the states usually end up driving to wherever they're going, or taking a plane.
mhm.
And I think having a train, like a really nice railroad system, would help that out a lot. I personally think it would bring a lot of different things, but then also there's the issue of you have to build a railroad
Mhm.
through America again, and that would be not only a massive undertaking, but then also you're probably gonna have to try to cut through like wildlife.
I mean, you're like, it's not. like I agree. There's
or
there's gonna be,
private property, and you know how Americans are with their private property.
yeah. I mean, of course, like it's not gonna be simple. It's never gonna be
Yeah.
simple. Um, but like like I should not want to drive 12 hours from here to Seattle as opposed to sit in a train for 2 to 3 days. Like, I feel like at this point, with like a lot of other train systems being set up nicely, that we should be able to have a train system that works that efficiently. In my opinion, of course, I'm not an expert in logistics. I just want a good train system. Um, that little tangent aside,
Yes.
kind of spinning gears a little more, kind of. They also have like this place called Midland Square, which is apparently Nagoya's tallest building, and they got like this
Oh.
cool little like the top 3 stories or floors of the building of this 46-story building is just like a basic like observation deck
Mm.
basically. Um, and like some of the screenshots I saw look pretty cool, and of course, like you want to get the lay of the land. You kind of
Yeah.
want to see how far the city
Horizon.
spreads
Yeah.
from. Yeah, I'd love to go at night and see the lights all lit up, but that's just kind of me being a sucker about it. Um, the last thing I have, and this is literally the entirety of my note, is they have Legoland. They
Legoland.
have Legoland. Did you ever play with Legos growing up, Thomas?
Um, a little bit. It wasn't. I remember there was other ones. I think Connects.
Mm.
I also played with.
I'm sorry you didn't have a childhood. I'm just joking.
Um, and I remember liking some Legos, but like I remember it took a while.
Mm.
I know that the craze for Legos has definitely picked up
Oh, it's back.
over
Yeah.
the years. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. But I think when I was a kid, it wasn't terribly big. Like it was there in the store,
Mm.
but you have like even nowadays you have like a TV show.
Mm.
There's like the Lego, I think it's like Ninjago or something like that.
Something like that.
But like you have TV shows to make you play more with Legos and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool.
Mm.
But growing up as a kid, Legos wasn't really like the big thing to have during that time.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunate. Yeah, because it was definitely a big part of mine. My parents would basically I mean, well, of course they supported me basically doing anything besides getting in trouble. So like me wanting to build Legos a lot, they were like all for it. And growing up, we often went to the Legoland they have in San Diego.
Oh.
So like every time like we go do different things, like there was like when I was looking into the research, like this place has a lot of the same attractions where they got cars, they got like displays for like different world buildings, like sort of in a walkway, places where you can just build and try out different experiments, like all sorts of cool stuff. And like the thing, like for me at least as a kid, was that was like whenever I went, I was always like inspired to build something new. So like half the time I'd spend any money I had like on new Lego sets there. um but it's very much a thing I'd like to go back to. And honestly, if I'm in Nagoya, that's pretty much just my excuse to be like, why not? Like, of course, there's the other things I'd like to check out first, but like, if I've got the time, like, why not just go get soaked into that nostalgia again?
Thinking about it, wait, I did. I don't know if it'd be play, but I remember in school there was like this I think it was in the after school program. But it was like a little club essentially, and I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, so doing a club was pretty crazy in itself. But they gave the schools like a Lego engineering set.
Oh yeah.
And we made a club out of that, and the whole goal of that, I think there was one goal of making a battle robot. Where you took it to this like meeting, and you had like a battle. And this was quite some time ago. This was a good like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is when robotics were picking up. And so I remember trying that out, and that was my first real, I think, big exposure with Legos. Was having all of these things, because all the electronic parts were essentially Legos.
Yeah.
And then you'd have rotors for movement and all this other stuff.
No, it was cool. Yeah.
I remember it was really, really cool. I don't remember any other Legos though, and that just came to me of like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, because it's funny you mention that because I remember that just now, loaded as you said that, because like for half a year in middle school, I did the same thing, which I think speaks to like the versatility of Legos. But like, I could go on long stories about Legos, and I'm gonna spare everybody. But that was kind of like this more like my brief overview of Nagoya because it's like there's definitely a downtown to go check out. There's definitely a lot of good food that I could go over, but like I just kind of wanted to give like a short little brief overview because I think I don't want to feel too redundant in some of the things that I'd be saying, as you might imagine, because I get to that point. Because a lot of it would seem like it's redundant from larger cities like in Osaka or Hokkaido, stuff like that. But moving on to something I think a bit more unusual, but something that especially recently has come to interest me more. There's this place called Meiji Muda, and it's like a collection of a collection of Meiji era buildings
Oh, okay.
from Japan, and they like apparently they basically just relocated all of them into this like outdoor museum.
Yeah.
And so like we've got like buildings from Tokyo, apparently Tokyo's old Imperial Hotel, apparently Kyoto's St. Francis Xavier's Cathedral, like
Okay.
really
Wow.
really random, like grabbed from all over Japan kind of buildings. Apparently even like prisons, telephone exchanges, offices, foreign settlements, like
But they probably chose all these because they're essentially making another town.
I
It sounds like anyway, or is it just random buildings that they selected?
I think it was mostly because they wanted to preserve the architecture. And I think a lot of it, when they started collecting them, was gone. So it was like, oh, we can get this really unique, building from here. Like, let's get it because we don't know how long it'll be there for. But I mean, you're not wrong. Like, they've converted, of course, like some of the buildings into like candy shops
I was
and
about to say about whether or not you could stay in them, or like what their other focus or other point was, whether or not you just kind of walked down, looked at the buildings, and then just that was it, or if you were able to go inside, or if there was shops or hotels or anything like that.
yeah, they've got like shops, cafes, apparently traditional game stalls. Though to what exactly kind of games you can play, I don't particularly know. Um, and I guess running with a weird theme, they've got a village bus that'll take you the length of the village. They got a tram, and they got a steam train.
Nice.
So, honestly, like, because for me, like the past couple months, I got into a lot of Meiji era stuff. Like, we read Boltchamp for class, and I finished reading Kokoro, and I got more interested in that kind of period because like, the narrator would talk about doing something, and I'd be like, oh, is that just like the normal thing to do? And like as I kind of like learned a little more, I was just like, oh, so it was like this back then, or it was like they did this way. It's kind of almost like if you go to in California, like one of the old like how do I put it? Like if you go to some of the locations or settlements that they still have from I guess the gold rush in like what 18, oh my gosh, I forgot when it happened because I'm bad at history, but like they preserved a lot of those buildings from back then. It kind of feels like it's almost the same way.
Okay. Yeah.
Which seems just really cool, and kind of like take yourself out of like or get yourself in like a glimpse into how that kind of would be. Which I think kind of just I guess it'd be like my way to just take myself out of like the hustle and bustle. Like I go to Nagoya, get like really see the sights, get involved, like probably be going hard, and then like kind of just take myself out of it for a while, and that'd just kind of be like I think the two big things that would definitely be my big destinations for a trip. But I guess on that note, I kind of just want to move into my wild card.
Okay.
So for this wild card, this one I stumbled on at the last second, well, more like the last minute when I was like picking out places where I was like, don't see anything. But this place is called Koranke, and apparently like during the fall, like they have like this walkway where they set up all like have these trees that grow up perfectly, and the color is like just really good.
Oh.
And I was impressed at first, but I was like, oh, I don't see the hype. But apparently they went like the extra step to have like lights set up for like the night to like really make it pop and like
Oh
do
wow.
all this other stuff. Like it's almost like a walking trail to some degree, but like it's how do I put it? Almost like a curated walk, like where they've done their best to make it pop out and stand out as unique.
Is this only during fall?
Yeah, I believe from I believe September until November. I think that's about as long as it goes to. And then they do have festival stalls when the seasons are prime, so you can of course try different snacks, stop and enjoy the sights while taking a look at stuff, take pictures,
Yeah.
of course. But then they apparently also have along the way the Shanshu Asuke Yashiki Village. God, that's a mouthful. Which apparently is like kind of like a well preserved, like older village.
Mm.
Like let's see, I think I remember seeing Strahd. Like this was such a last minute pick that I can't fully remember. But like they've got like other things for you to do, kind of like handicrafts, such as making bamboo baskets, straw sandals. Like they let you like partake in doing a lot of these handicrafts. So it's like, oh, you want like a quick change of pace? Here's a village to go check out.
It'd be cool to make your own sandals.
I think so. Like, I hope I hope they're sturdy because I guess I'm going to be standing on them. But
I heard the straps aren't.
oh,
That's one of the biggest things during like the Edo period. That's when they usually used a lot of these sandals. A lot of the straps would break. That was probably the biggest thing out of it that would break.
that's unfortunate. But yeah, like I just think it'd be cool. Take a walk, go get involved in like some other interesting, different kind of activities. When I picked a lot of my activities this time around, I wanted to focus on Nagoya, but I also got like kind of distracted with some of the history that I was interested in. But yeah, that was pretty much my 3 picks. I didn't want to seem too redundant, so I held back on some other things I had wanted to talk about before we came in this episode. But do you have any wild cards you have, Thomas?
There is one place that I definitely think is worth mentioning. It is Himakajima Island, which is also known as Octopus Island.
Okay.
This was because so this song, or sorry, this island. There was a song written about it, which was from the Beatles. So if you're a big Beatles fan, there we are. It is Octopus's Garden.
Yep.
That song is about this island, Himakajima Island.
Is it? I genuinely thought it was about them being underwater. I did not.
No,
pay
it was
attention to
actually
lyrics.
apparently, according to Aichi's websites, that's what it was based off of this island.
Okay.
So yes, and then not only that, but also there was one of the famous 47 Ronin was born here. In case you don't know what 47 Ronin is, essentially what happens is one of these are like 47 masterless samurai have a vendetta against a I believe it was a priest, actually, not a local lord. But apparently, like, the head of the clan was killed by that. He wasn't killed exactly. He was so the story is sorry, I have to kind of explain it because it's a little bit difficult. Yes. But this story, the 47 Ronin, it is very well known in Japan. So hopefully I don't mess this up.
Okay. Take your time.
They literally do a new movie of the 47 Ronin every year.
I think. Yeah, like I know the story, but like every time like we say 47 Ronin, of course I think of the 7 Ronin because that's the one I think, or 7 Samurai I think is the name. But
there's the 7th Samurai,
I know
which
that's
is very
like,
different.
Yeah, I know it's very different, but like I guess I'm going to need a refresh on the 47 Ronin.
So essentially what I understand, and I could be very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I'm right. But it was about a lord
Mm-hmm.
who got angry at a priest and attempted to murder him.
Oh.
So when the priest was walking away, the lord stabbed him in the back. Which, let's be honest here, according to the way of the samurai, that is extremely bad, and he would not be considered a samurai for doing that.
Okay.
Because that is such a disgraceful act. You are supposed to be attacking from the front,
Mm-hmm.
mano a mano. But stabbed him in the back, failed, which is another negative thing for samurai, is you don't fail, especially if their back is turned.
Oh.
And so he was sentenced to death for attempting murder.
Okay.
So he dies. Well, he had a lot of samurai who went to avenge their master's death. And that is really what the story is.
Right.
And this apparently happened. And there is also a monument. I forgot exactly where.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are many flaws in thinkings during it, like whether or not it actually follows the way of the samurai. And then
yeah, because I've heard the version where it's against a lord, and they that like they do a very in depth, almost like a heist movie style plot.
That's exactly what this is. And it was against the lord because they were angry at the lord for sentencing him to death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I believe they're well, actually, I don't know if I want to spoil the ending to that. I don't know. I'll leave that to your discretion, but
if you guys want to watch it, they're usually good movies. There are a million of them out in Japan. I am not kidding when I say there is a new movie on 47 Ronin every year that airs every year in Japan. I am not kidding on that. They actually are doing a TV show. When I was learning about this in class, they were doing a TV show on the 47 Ronin.
Like a retelling or like one of those historical.
It's always a retelling.
Okay.
So yeah, that one of the 47 Ronin were born here and on Octopus Island.
Okay. Do you know why it's called Octopus Island though?
I believe it was because of the Beatles song.
Oh, so that gave it the name at that.
Also, they are famous for their octopus.
Oh, okay.
Like one of the best dishes there are octopus and the poison blowfish delicacy, which is fugu.
Yeah.
This is apparently the place you would go to eat fugu, which I don't know if I would eat that, because that is the one that like they have to be absolutely perfect on making it, otherwise you're gonna die.
I mean, how do I put this? I put faith in the chef. Like, obviously, I'm not going to go to like some back alley place to go get food. Like, I'd probably pay the.
He's probably had training on it, and everything like that, and he's done it millions of times.
And you're probably going to pay for like that expertise, which honestly is almost more reassuring in that way. Not saying you should just start spending more money willy nilly, but if I'm gonna like
try fugu, it should be by a professional.
Yeah, and I
agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen demonstrations on how to prepare it. Like, obviously, I don't consider myself like trained to do that. No, God no. But like, it almost seems as if, like, again, if you're well trained and you know what parts to avoid.
Usually, you go through a lot of training too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine some guy just walks in and is like, "Hey, I want to make this dish. Let's go." You know.
Yeah.
I believe it takes years of training of watching someone make it. And then mastering it. Yeah, I don't believe it is just something that is, you just get in there, you read like maybe a book and then follow. You probably study it from a master.
Yeah, I mean you'd have to almost.
Yeah. So then there's that, and then I mean the beach or the island itself is very, very nice. It is only like a 10-minute ride from Mikawa Bay. So it is extremely just right off the coast. Also, Their beaches are extremely well known. They are very calm and clear. They even have safe beach areas for children as well, children and adults. I'm not entirely sure what these safe beach areas are for, or like how it works. I imagine it's just probably more shallow and it's just a safer experience.
Yeah, that'd be preferable for parents.
That's what I was thinking. So if you're a parent, there we go. But yeah, after that, after the Beatles song, everything has also been very much octopus themed. So the whole island is very octopus.
So they
themed.
doubled down at that point.
Yes. Well, they were, I believe, before then they were known for octopus or having good quality octopus.
But like then they went hard on the motif.
But then, yeah. So they went with all that. They have hundreds of octopus figures, characters, objects, everything. It is very much octopus themed. And then there's even dried octopus is another one of their big specialties on this island. I don't know what's the difference between this dried octopus and another one. I'd imagine it just tastes better.
Yeah, I mean, I guess different ingredients prepared different ways, possibly, I guess.
Yes. There's lots of different ways to serve octopus, which they have mastered here on this island. So literally, if you like octopus or anything like that, I would highly recommend you go here because there's a lot of octopus themed things, and then also there's just a lot of good quality food made from octopus.
Good to know.
But other than that, that is my wild card was Octopus Island.
I was definitely surprising. I'll give you that one.
Yes, I was surprised by it as well, especially with the Beatles song. I tend to like the Beatles. I've actually taken 2 classes, which essentially talk about the Beatles. And they never really talk about Octopus's Garden. So I thought that was very interesting. It was something that very kind of blew me away. I consider myself pretty well known about Beatles because I had a hit. Funny enough, I learned about the Beatles in my math class in high school.
Wait, you didn't know about them until high school?
I knew about them. I listened to songs because of parents, but
Okay.
but like more historical like events.
Okay.
And then I took a history of rock and jazz class that we actually went through Sgt. Pepper's
Lonely Hearts?
Yeah, Lonely Hearts album, and we actually went in depth about why that album is such a groundbreaking album. Which by now I've listened to that album so many times, and actually after taking that class, after knowing the amount of knowledge I do know, it has changed that album for me. I love it. So I'm a decent Beatles fan, and I had never heard of this. Octopus's Paradise and Octopus's Garden or Island.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I mean, funny enough, I got Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts as a Japanese copy of a record for a gift a couple years ago, which again, really good record, of course.
Yes.
But I'm like actually kind of more of a fan of Abbey Road, just for me. And last year I happened to finally get my hands on surprisingly another Japanese copy of the record, and I'm still gonna say "Come Together." I don't know how basic that makes me, but I still think it's like my favorite Beatles song.
Oh yeah?
Oh, I freaking love "Come Together."
One of my favorite is oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the song now. It is the second song on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts.
Oh my gosh, I'm remembering right now.
Little Help from My Friends, I believe it is. That one is one of my favorite songs. That in 64, because that talks about kind of like his like kind of like when I'm older, what will I be doing? And I remember really resonating with that. But anyway, enough about the Beatles.
That tangent aside,
I think we will stop that here.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening or watching if you're on the YouTube. We very much appreciate it. If you guys wanted to follow us at distant_tourists on our Instagram, we post up when our stuff is live there. If you're watching on YouTube, you could subscribe there. That would definitely be cool. That'll let you know when a new episode is out as well. If you don't really not into the Instagram scene, I guess. But yeah, all right. Thank you so much for watching and listening, guys. We will see you in the next one.
Later.